Talk Radio. You're in to all things music.
A funny story about that, briefly, is with Nathan East. I have such gratitude towards you, Terry, introducing me to people like JR and Nate, who've become really good friends, and just hanging out with them, or having lunch and talking to Nate about, hey, I saw you at the Forum, with Eric Clapton. It was a tour that Phil Collins was playing drums. It was a really cool tour. It was in the 80s. And I've been telling him, to me, it was like one of those amazing nights of music you guys were on, and it was incredible. And I go, was it special for you? And he goes, oh, were you the night that George Harrison showed up? I go, what? No. But anyway, these are the kind of caliber musicians that Terry Woolman brings to the table, let me tell you.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Out of the tree of life, I just picked me a plum. You came along and everything started to hum. Still, it's a real good bet. The best is yet to come. The best is yet to come, and babe, won't that be
Welcome
fun?
to the show, and thanks for tuning in. I want to say a quick thank you to my guest on last week's episode with Emmy-nominated composer Miriam Cutler. If you didn't get to hear it, you can listen to all of our episodes at entertalkradio.com/makingit or download our app and take us with you. Also, be sure to tune in next week to hear my conversation with legendary studio guitarist Michael Thompson. I'd like to take a moment to also thank the companies that help me sound my best, whether I'm performing live or in the studio recording and producing music. Blue Microphones, Taylor Guitars, Duesenberg Guitars, Seymour Duncan Pickups, Mesa Boogie Amps, D'Addario Strings and Planet Waves, Motu Digital Performer, IK Multimedia, Fishman Acoustic Amps, and Exotic Effects. So often, I get asked questions about the creative process. So I created this show to focus on what it takes to have a lasting career in the ever-changing landscape of the music business. You're really in for a treat, as I've invited my friends, some of the best and brightest in music, to share their stories on how they have influenced the music that has shaped our lives. I guarantee you're going to love it. So let's get started. My guest this week is producer-director Danny Gold. A seasoned director, producer, and writer, Danny Gold holds expertise in developing, producing, and directing original material across multiple platforms, including television, new media, feature films, and theater. Danny has produced and directed projects for the History Channel, MTV, ABC Family, and HBO, as well as 20th Century Fox, Warner Brothers, Sony, Dreamworks, the Weinstein Company, and Disney. He also has extensive background in feature films, including developing and executive producing the Agent Cody Banks franchise for MGM. Danny co-directed the award-winning feature documentary 100 Voices: A Journey Home. Danny's most recent directorial effort, If You're Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast, starring Carl Reiner, Mel Brooks, Dick Van Dyke, Norman Lear, Kirk Douglas, Betty White, Tony Bennett, and Jerry Seinfeld, premieres on HBO this summer. Please welcome my guest, Danny Gold. Hi, Danny.
Actually, it premieres this Monday.
That's right, on June 5th on HBO.
Sorry.
Do you know what time?
Have to be a little shameless.
Yeah. No, do you know what time the show is airing?
Yes, the movie airs on HBO this Monday, June 5th at 8 p.m. on the West Coast and East Coast.
Fantastic. And also, that first song that we heard at the beginning of the show was Tony Bennett singing. a song which you filmed and recorded for the movie.
Absolutely. What a great experience.
Yeah, it sure was. We did that in New York with Tony's band, and it's a beautiful way to tell the music part of the story that you were sharing.
It was one of those moments, when you finally get there to do it, you sort of all of a sudden you have this moment where you see there's Tony Bennett on stage, and you're trying to give him some direction, and it's like, is this really happening?
You must experience that a lot because you have a lot of great ideas, and you, as a director and a producer and a writer, you've brought a lot of your ideas to life. So did this stand out even more profoundly than some of your other experiences, or right up there with many of the others that you've done? Well,
I think the most amazing thing I think anybody does in the creative business is when you can take an idea from a discussion and then you write it, then through a long process usually to the first day you're filming it. It's quite, and then then to produce it, direct it, and make it, and then see it with an audience is just the most fascinating process. It's each time it happens, I look at it as almost a miracle that everything has to come together to make something happen. But I really get to work with the most creative people. It's an amazing creative sandbox that we all get to play in and make some magic, hopefully, that people will enjoy.
Right.
And whether this movie stood out in the sense of the amazing people that are in it, both celebrity and non-celebrity. So there were so many different segments that we filmed, and each one resonated in a different way, but it was one of those projects where as you're filming it, they're touching your heart, so you're hoping that translates to an audience.
One of the things that made the movie really special to me and so very proud to be a part of it, and for those that don't know, my part is as the music producer of the movie. So I have a bias towards well, I do have a bias towards the movie because I was fortunate enough to be involved in it with you. But I love that it's not just celebrity driven, it's humanity driven, and it's a very inspiring movie, and it's a documentary, but it's a documentary for me. It was a documentary about happiness and joy and passion.
It's a very unique documentary, if I do say so, in the sense that there were basically three elements that came together. You have stories, people telling stories of how they're living well after 90. You have conversations between Carl Reiner and different people that he was friends with. And then you have music. And they all sort of blend together to make this really interesting journey that we take the audience on. And I was so proud to be part of it. And the music element of it, speaking of the music, I really enjoyed working with you, Terry, on it, because I think when I'm conceiving a project, I kind of think musically, and I get music going in my own head in terms of motivating me or conceiving different scenes or moments in a movie. And sometimes when you make a documentary, certain storylines come to you later. And I was able to call you up and say, hey, I came up with this wild idea, what I want to do. Do you think we can make this happen? And what was cool about working with you, Terry, was that the answer was never no. It was, let's figure it out. And I think that made for a wonderful collaboration.
Thank you. And it was just shy of this being the Mutual Admiration Society episode. The feeling is really mutual because you use the word creative sandbox, and I've worked with a lot of directors and producers, and my working relationship and friendship with you is different than most other people that I've worked with, because you have such a clear vision, but you have such an artist spirit, and you love music as much as the musicians that are making the music. So you somehow you see where the magic lives, and you capture it, and it intrigues you. Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say that I really, like I said, music to me, it goes back to just as a fan of movies. I've always felt that music, a score, is like a character in the movie itself. It's like a standalone. I was a big fan of John Barry and John Williams and Jerry Goldsmith and a whole bunch of others. I just loved what they would bring to a movie. I didn't look at it as just sort of part of a movie. I looked at it almost as a character because it evokes emotion. It evokes the pacing of a scene. There's so much it does. So when doing this particular movie, to go back a little, to take a step back, certain musical ideas came to me, and then I would go to my producing partners in the movie, the amazing George Shapiro and Amy Hyatt, also amazing, and pitch them the idea, because this movie started sort of one way and then evolved, and they were so supportive in saying, allowing me to go for it. So I have to really say that's where it starts. It starts with an idea, then you gain the support, and then it gets into the practicality of it, and that's where you came in, Terry, and and really allowed me to have some fun, and in turn, I think you had some fun, and we were able to make some amazing moments together. Yeah.
That leads to one of the questions that I was going to ask you, which is really that you have such a unique love and respect for music, and in finding unexpected ways to incorporate music into your films. And I was going to ask you if you thought music plays a character in your movies, and you've already answered that question. But so I think the question that I want to ask you is, how do you go from taking a movie that has nothing to do with music and incorporating and weaving 3 musical segments into the movie so that they become an integral part of your storytelling?
Well, that's a very good question, because each musical scene in the movie has its own story. But if you look at them in totality, it's 3 artists over the age of 90 that music plays an important role in their life and in their vitality. So when it was all said and done, the commonality became very clear. But in going through the process, the first musical moment in the movie was the recording of Young at Heart at Capitol Records. And that really came about after interviewing Dick Van Dyke and his wife, Arlene Van Dyke. And in their interview, they have a love of music that they share. And they, on their own, not necessarily professionally, they just love to sing together. And after the interview, I was so taken with them as far as their friendship and love for each other, but also the different things that they had in common that they shared, like music. And when you see the movie, you can kind of see the evolution of it. There's a scene where they're singing together just at home, and that somehow led to my thinking, God, wouldn't it be great to take them to a recording studio and have them sing the song, which I had chosen, Young at Heart. Young at Heart obviously has a kind of an obvious significance to the storyline of the movie. And that's when I pitched it to George Shapiro and Amy Hyatt, and they were supportive of the thought, and that's when I called you. And that began a real, a long, kind of challenging road to make it happen, because it's and obviously you can speak a lot to that, but it certainly was a great process. So that's how that song came to be in the movie. The second one we filmed was Best Is Yet to Come with Tony Bennett, and that one was a long story. He got involved in the project through a mutual agency that he was represented by and represented the film, and they thought it would be a good idea for him to be part of it. And it went through different song ideas and finally settled on that. And that became its own set of challenges because we had to create a club environment. We weren't going to film we weren't going to, he was in New York, we were in LA, so we had to work that out. And then we had to incorporate his musical world with our musical world, and our musical world was led by a guy named Terry Wollman. So Terry had to kind of parachute into his world and create a symbiotic relationship that we could get what we needed for camera, but also that he had to have his musical integrity protected as well.
Right, so, something that he would be proud of as well.
Right. Because we're talking about a person who's a legend in music. It is his life, and we needed to do it right. And so, Terry, once again, another compliment for you.
Thank you, Danny.
You made that happen. And then the final song, if you want to get into that, was just
with a third legend.
Started. The third legend that was written by Marilyn and Alan Bergman. Oh man, are they like amazing? I mean, they've written The Way
incredible.
We Were. I think they've been on your show, in fact. So
yes, they have. Yes.
So you guys can go back into the audience can go back into your archive and see everything they've done. But they've done amazing work,
which I recommend. Dave Grusin, one of the premier artists, producers, piano players, arrangers, songwriter, record label head. I mean, film composer, just extraordinary person, and another wonderful, wonderful person.
And so that song, started out as a demo, and it was going to be initially. It was, we weren't sure how it was going to be incorporated into the movie. It might have been sung by somebody else. We didn't know how it was going to play out. And then it just dawned on me that Alan Bergman was 90 at the time. Oh God, that sort of fits into the movie. And I went and asked him, "Hey, Alan, do you want to sing the song?" And oh, by the way, we're going to film you singing the song. And he was up for it. He said, "Sure." And and that led to, "Hey, do you think?" Actually, this was, in fairness, I remember asking you, Terry. I go, "Do you think Dave Grusin would play on it?" And you just said, "Ask him. Ask him." I said, "I don't know him." But anyway, I called Alan, and Alan gave me Dave's number, and Dave was very, he jumped on in, and then
he was totally in the boat with us.
Yeah. And
by the way, we're heading. Yeah. I'm going to interrupt you. We're heading into our first break, so we will continue talking about if you're not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast, and the story behind how you got to be the director of that movie. I'm here with Danny Gold. And please stick around. We'll be right back. I'm Making It with Terry Wollman.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Intertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
This is John Shaw, a bagpipe player, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Wood.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Woolman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Woolman.
Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you if you're young at heart. For it's hard, you'll find, to be narrow of mind if you're young at heart.
You can go to extremes with impossible schemes.
You can laugh when your dreams fall apart at the seams, and life gets more exciting with each passing day.
Welcome back. You are listening to Dick Van Dyke with his wife Arlene singing Young at Heart for the new movie If You're Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast, which airs on June 5th, this coming Monday on HBO. And I'm talking with the director of the movie, Danny Gold, who Danny, had the brilliant idea for me to go in the studio with Dick and record some music for the movie. So he was one of the three musical artists that you were, or musical icons that you were just talking about. And you were talking also about the Alan Bergman, Dave Grusin song as well.
Oh, yeah. Well, with picking up on the Dave Grusin, Alan Bergman, Marilyn Bergman song. Mm-hmm. So I called Alan Bergman, continuing the story. Alan, I said, do you think Dave Grusin would play on the cut for the song and the movie? And by the way, that's like asking, will Paul McCartney play bass for you? It's like going to a legend. It's not like going. I'm asking one legend about another legend. I think at that moment I had a real out of body experience and really had that line. Is this really happening? I mean, I'm sitting here talking to Alan Bergman about getting Dave Grusin to record a song that's in this movie that I'm directing. Whoa.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, you had wanted me to bring you into my world, and in my world, I think very similar to your world. I shoot for the stars. I start at the top of my list, and it made complete sense to invite Dave Grusin to play piano and do the arrangement for the song because he co-wrote the song. And I remember saying to you, well, nobody knows better how it should sound than Dave. He wrote it with Alan and Marilyn Bergman. So
Alan, it's true. And Dave and I were talking, after he said he'll do it, he'll play on it, we started talking about the arrangement. And I had a conversation with him. And I said, well, what's it going to sound like? And he goes, well, what do you want it to sound like?
Right.
And I said, well, I'd like to have it kind of have sort of an old school big band kind of feel. And he said, I really love horns. Or I love, could we put a sax in it or something? So he just listened. He said, okay. And fast forward, I get the musician list, and I believe we had 7 horns.
Yes, we did.
We had 7 horns. And when I say the musicians, and if I can speak a moment about the musicians.
You can, yeah.
Starting with the horn section for a second, featuring Tom Scott Oh my gosh! I mean, Tom Scott has played on. He represents the soundtrack of our lives. I mean, he's played on everything, and I'm a big Beatles fan from way back. And one of my favorite Paul McCartney solo albums was Venus and Mars. And so when Tom Scott's in the studio and here we are at Capitol Records, I go up to Tom. I go, Mr. Scott, I've got to just tell you, I was a big fan of the Venus and Mars album, and you played the seminal saxophone solo on the song "Listen to What the Man Said."
Right.
And he launched into a story about recording that, and it was like, wow. I mean, it's like, if you're a fan of music like I am, and there you've heard that saxophone solo forever in your life, and then all of a sudden there's the guy that did it. It was like just amazing. So
right.
And then the other horn players, and I don't want to blow their names because you have them, but they were amazing. Every one of them is like a who's who in the music business in terms of.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah.
Songs, and then of course, we kind of had a core group of musicians that played on two of the cuts. We had the amazing Nathan East on bass. JR, John Robinson on drums.
John Robinson, who also has JR has a show on this network as well, Vinyl Nights. So he's got a radio talk. Right. Bill Cantos.
Bill Cantos piano. On keyboards and piano, and Eric Marienthal on sax.
And me on guitar, which I have to tell you was really a kick. I mean, and for each of us, these musicians have played with everybody. Every single musician that played on this movie soundtrack has worked with the best of the best, and we were all collectively thrilled to be a part of the movie. It was really fun. It was really fun for everybody. Mutual. Yeah, and there's one of the things about you as a non-professional musician, you have the same passion for music as we do. I think your passion equals mine. And quite frankly, you've gone to more concerts in your life than I have. You were every couple, there's probably not a week that goes by where you weren't at some sort of a live music performance show still. And you've been doing that since you grew up, since junior high school. Weren't you going to the Forum and all the local, the Roxy and all the places in LA?
I was, I'm of an age that I was able to see amazing people play, seeing Queen with Freddie Mercury and Thin Lizzy all the way through, it's a who's who. I've seen pretty much not everybody, but I've seen everybody I wanted to see. And a funny story about that briefly is, with Nathan East, I have such gratitude towards you, Terry, introducing me to people like JR and Nate, who've become really good friends, and just hanging out with them, or having lunch and talking to Nate about, hey, I saw you at the Forum, with Eric Clapton. It was a tour that Phil Collins was playing drums. It was a really cool tour. It was in the 80s. And I've been telling him, to me, it was like one of those amazing nights of music you guys were on, and it was incredible. And I go, was it special for you? And he goes, oh, were you the night that George Harrison showed up? I go, what? No. But anyway, these are the kind of caliber musicians that Terry Woolman brings to the table. Let me tell you, it's like I learned so much, and you opened up a real door for me to get to work with these amazing musicians, and so I'm very grateful to that.
Then, as am I. Let's talk about your background a little bit in your film and starting your filmmaking career. Your mom gave you a Super 8 camera, right, when you were 8 years old, and the rest is history.
Yes,
I say. Tell me about your childhood.
When I was 8 years old, for my birthday, I wanted a Super 8 movie camera, and that's how old I am. It was a Super 8 movie camera. That's, for those of you who don't know, that's before the iPhone or video cameras. There was Super 8. And Super 8 was a wonderful a wonderful thing. You put it through a projector, and you hope the movie finishes without getting stuck in the gate and melting before your very eyes.
Right.
My mom gave me the camera for my birthday, and my friends in the neighborhood, we would get together and write films and film them. I mean, very unsophisticated, but we would come up with stories, and it would really stretch our imagination. And I think that's sort of where it all began, or at least my love affair with, telling stories and making movies started there. And it was a fun thing to do. That when I look back on those movies that we made then, they were funny, but yet we were trying to emulate. Movies we'd seen in the theater. Mm-hmm. I use the word emulate very liberally.
Sure.
And but that started the process. And then when I got into high school, it got a little more sophisticated, and I did an internship at the American Film Institute at that time. Mm-hmm. And I formed my first film production company with a good friend of mine in high school. We called it 2001 Incorporated because we were both Stanley Kubrick fans.
Right.
So why not take the name? And we made some really fun films then, and then the story goes on into college, and then yada yada yada. Here I am.
Do you still have your Super 8, the camera?
I wish. Okay. Do I wish I still? Yeah. Now you got to pay a lot of money to get a Super 8 camera.
That's right. So you began your career producing an array of films, working with Edward Asner, Jason Alexander, Kathleen Turner, Christopher Lloyd, Mary Steenburgen, Danny Aiello, Courtney B. Vance, Regina King, Gene Simmons, and many other stars. How did you actually get started? Like, what was your first job, or when you felt like you were in the business?
Well, what happened
or not yet.
Yeah, I'll let you know when that happens.
Right, let me know when that happens. Likewise.
Right. No, I was transitioning from, when I went after college, I had a moment where I don't know what happened, but I ended up in law school for 3 years, and was absolutely miserable. And then I passed the bar the first time. I had to then, I sort of felt obligated to take a job as a lawyer, and I was absolutely miserable. It just was so not what I was about, so I quickly got out of it. But during my short tenure in it, most of my friends were all filmmakers, and I realized I want to be one of them. I want to be who I represented, not the one representing, which is at the time people would say, well, what do you do? And I'd go, I'm an aspiring former attorney. And when you say that to your client, that's not really good.
It's like an ex-Catholic, right?
Exactly. So I'd made some connections, and I'd met a person at the time, and we both were sort of in that moment of wanting to make change. And so we got together and started a film production company, and there was an attorney, a film finance attorney at the time, that was very instrumental in helping me get my start. And we would find projects, other people's projects, that needed financing. So we found one, and I think within 2 or 3 months of leaving the practice of law, and I use the word practice very liberally, I was able to get the first project off the ground, and at least I was able to sort of see the process, how it works, at least on the business side, to see how you put a movie together. And then that proved fun but unfulfilling, and that led to, okay, now I want to get a little more involved than just finding the money. I want to actually physically produce it. Mm-hmm. So then I found another project that then I physically produced. That was called Love in Action in Chicago, and that was with Jason Alexander, Kathleen Turner, Ed Asner, Regina King, Courtney Vance, and others. Mm-hmm. And that one was filmed in Chicago, and that was really a real I utilized it as film school. I spent all my time, even though I was the producer of the project, I spent all my time learning each portion of the process of filmmaking, from the grips and the teamster drivers and the director and the director of photography and makeup and hair and special effects and stuff. I learned everything. I was on the set from 5 o'clock in the morning till the end. And most producers don't necessarily show up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's
but I really wanted to learn because I had to. I had to learn. And, and then that led to another project where I was producing. Ultimately, and then that culminated in producing a studio film, which is another story we can get into in a little bit about Agent Cody Banks.
Right.
But then ultimately, though.
But let me interject, Danny. You're saying you had to learn, and I appreciate you saying that and understand that. But it seems like in addition to having to, you also had and still do have a deep curiosity and a willingness to do whatever it takes to get it done, and an integrity that is much broader than just having to learn something. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, well, yes. When I say I had to learn at that time, I had to learn the language. Right. You have to learn the language so then you can work, and I use this word very purposefully, with people. So when when I work on a project, I work with people. People don't work for me. I work with them because I want to work with filmmakers. I want to work with artists. And but I had to learn the language first. And then then once you learn the language, then your natural curiosity and your love and respect for the process and for the art and for the people that make that art just naturally grows. And so my evolution was from producing other people's projects to then wanting to exercise more on the creative level and then start producing my own projects. And that led to producing, that led to writing, that led to directing.
Well, and you had mentioned Agent Cody Banks. That's a huge blockbuster, feature movie. It's not an independent documentary. So you moved from doing Super 8 movies to bringing an idea to full fruition with international attention.
Well, Agent Cody Banks is an amazing situation. It was essentially I'd ordered a car service to take me to the airport for a trip I was going on, and I got in the car. And the driver asked me, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a producer. And he goes, oh, I have a great idea for a script.
I love this story.
And I said, oh, you're the limo driver in L.A. with the script? Oh, lucky me. So he proceeds to pitch me the project, and I listened to it. And mind you, this is way before Spy Kids. This was a long time ago.
Right.
And the concept was, basically a kid spy a kid is recruited by the CIA to be a spy unbeknownst to his parents.
We're going to make this a cliffhanger, Danny. We're heading into our next break. So when we get back, we're going to talk about really how Agent Cody Banks went from limo driver idea to becoming a feature film. I'm here with director, writer, producer Danny Gold, and we will be right back, so stick around.
Everybody, this is Phil Perry. Stay tuned for another portion of Making It with Terry.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear, host of Sound Experience here on Intertalk Radio. And Source Connect by Source Element is the essential tool that we use to link between my studio in Austin, Texas and the WS radio station in San Diego. Now with Source Connect, not only can we communicate in real time and with HD audio, but it's synced up and is of a high enough quality that I can use it for real-time ADR work, remote recording and overdubbing, and it even allows me to remotely control a DAW. Source Connect by Source Element. Affordable, high-quality audio and video connection over the internet for all of your production needs.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on intertalkradio.com.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Hi, Miriam Cutler, film composer here, and you're listening to Making It with Terry Wollman.
Welcome to Making It with Terry Wollman, the show that explores the secrets, successes, and strategies for making it in the music biz. And now, here's your host, Terry Wollman.
By the rainbow, baby, move a mountain. Whatever you think makes you happy. You got permission to take a bow. If every day you wake up and say, I'm just getting started now.
Welcome back. And that was another song from the movie, If You're Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast. And that's the great Alan Bergman singing a song that he and his wife, Marilyn Bergman, wrote with Dave Grusin. And that was an amazing experience too, Danny. Thanks for thinking of that. Thanks for making that one happen. That was really fun.
It was a treat, an honor, a privilege.
And again, just to clarify for those, we're encouraging everybody, of course, to go to HBO on June 5th to see the movie, the debut of the movie. And all three of these songs that you've heard excerpts from are, Danny, you filmed them. They're in the movie. They're not just audio. They're visual, and they're beautifully shot, and really give it really shows the passion and the joy, and the playfulness, and it just everything magical and wonderful about these iconic artists you captured. And I really want people to see this. Yeah. Oh, you're welcome.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you were just finishing up the story about Agent Cody Banks and how that came about from a limo driver having an idea to becoming a hit movie for a franchise.
Well, when last we spoke, I was in the back of a limo going to the airport. The limo driver told me he had an idea for a script, or he had a script, and he told me the idea. I listened to it. I thought that's interesting, but it was really early in the morning, so I gave him my card. And, I got out of the car, and I didn't think about it. And then a few weeks later, I get back to my office, and the script is there. At the time, it was called Agent Cody Banks In for Kids' Eyes Only. And it was a real Bond homage. Sure. And I read the script, and it was a good story. And that began a process that took a few years, actually, to get it to the big screen, but it was quite amazing. So that's a story. You never know who you're going to meet in a car who has a good script idea. You just never know. But if you think about it, all the factors that have to come together to make that happen. I produced that along with Jason Alexander and Jenny Birchfield Ike, who, I met Jason in the first movie, the second movie I produced, Love in Action, Chicago, and we became friends, and we've done other work together since then. And it was a great was a great process, and that led to a sequel. And we've actually contemplated recently trying to make a TV series out of it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I love that you said you just never know what might happen, because the same kind of openness is what led you and I to being involved in this movie together and becoming friends. Is just being open. We ended up doing a play together that Jason Alexander directed and you and Billy Reback produced. And who knew when I said yes to that we'd be making movies together?
Well, I think part of it is when I'm producing a project with artists, I like to get to know people, because ultimately every project I work on, for the most part, it's not just people that I work with; they become friends, and I really want to know, what they're about and what they're interested in doing, and giving them insight into myself and what I like to do, because you just never know. And if you keep yourself open for collaboration, amazing things can happen.
Right.
If you get so blinded and keep yourself closed off, I think that's not a good way to go about it. So that's right. So Terry, you were in the show. I mean, you were a musician on the show, and then you evolved into the assistant music director, and then you evolved into the music director. And but it happened because we got to know each other, and we got to talk about different things that we wanted to do.
Right.
And we both had desires beyond that show,
right.
And that led to collaborating with you on other projects that are becoming to fruition, music related and film and story related, and so it was a natural progression that you'd be involved in the music in this movie.
That leads to one of the questions I have for you. You have a gift, I think, of surrounding yourself with a great production team. What qualities do you look for in the people that you choose to work with?
Well, number one, I look for artists who are not afraid to share their art with you. In other words, when you work with a camera person entered into this whole world because they were a filmmaker first. And sometimes they work on projects where they are just put the camera here and shoot over there. But I don't work that way. I want to work with people that will share their creativity with me. Like I said before, when we were talking about a creative sandbox, that's how I look at it. We all get in there. It takes a village. I know this is a cliche, but it takes a village to raise a movie or a TV show or a play.
Or to make a record, to make an album, put a tour on. Yeah.
And I like to create an environment of people who work with me to have that freedom. And it doesn't mean every idea is the right idea, but you never know. It might lead you to the right idea.
Right.
And so that's the environment that I like. So, through the years, and I've been doing it for a while now, you basically, I don't think collect people, but you people join your
how about attract
your band, so
people?
to speak. People join your band that you want to work with, and ultimately, I look at them as friends first, artists, filmmakers, collaborators, co-conspirators in the world of art.
Right. Can you describe, Danny, your creative process when collaborating with your musicians?
When collaborate with musicians, you mean in terms of filming them, or in terms of
yes, in filming or brainstorming, choosing music, writing music, certainly setting up performances on camera. You're very hands on. You don't just. It's not just an us and them process. You are part of the tribe.
Well, like I said before, I really think. I visualize musically, first of all. So no matter what I'm writing or preparing to direct, I have music in my mind that I'm sort of playing the scene against. And so once I get the flavor that I want, and I'm pretty adept at recognizing the flavor that I want, and that's where then a person like a Terry Wollman comes in, and I can start the process of collaborating to tell you, to give you the sort of the flavor that I want. This is what I'm looking for. how I want it to sound, and then you and I start collaborating on, what pieces would be really good for that. Mm-hmm. And you start pulling the people in, the different musicians, and then but you give them the freedom too. You give them the freedom, and it's something that I like to do. But that's my process. Thankfully, it's your process, at least with me as well. Mm-hmm. Whether it's your process or an accommodation to my process.
No, it is my process. Yeah, I'm a very collaborative artist, producer, leader, follower. I love the art of collaboration.
Right, and if you have these amazing people, why shut them off?
Right.
It's like you get them, and so you create the environment, and you start creating this process, and then once I feel comfortable on the music side, simultaneously I'm thinking visually how to bring it to life and how I want to film it, and then I start collaborating at first with my directors of photography, or my editors, or other people in that part of it. But then I take the third step. Then I bring the visual and the music side together into a collaboration. So everyone is speaking the same language and understands the collective vision of what we're trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And then once everybody understands it and is involved in it and vested in it, that's when the magic happens.
Right. Let's talk about the film and TV business now. You've got a lot of experience conceiving and launching shows. What do you think the key ingredient is to getting a show released and sold and distributed?
Well, I think when you're younger and you start out, you kind of have a very specific auteur kind of look at things. If it's good for you, it should be good for everybody. If you like it, everyone should like it. Unfortunately, the business doesn't work that way. So I think as I've matured a little, or needed to work rather, you basically try to find the connection or the nexus between the creative and the business side, or as I like to call it, the business of show. Mm-hmm. So you when you sit there and are creating a product or a story or whatever it is, be it theater, movie, TV, you really should think about your audience and think about, is there an audience for it, number one, and if it's a TV show, is there a network for it? Is there a place to put it? And the good news these days is, with the whole online streaming, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, YouTube Red, you have that whole world has become very big. It's a whole other place to sell shows or create shows. Then beyond that, then you have your cable networks, and beyond that, you have your big networks. So you have all these different possibilities of doing things. And even younger kids are just doing their own stuff and putting it on YouTube and gaining followers. So it's a completely evolving business. And the money is following, usually slow, but it's following. There's more opportunity. So
right. We've got about 5 more minutes left in our conversation, and I want to get to a closing question that I ask all of my guests. At this point of your life, with everything that you know to be true, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self that follow your passion, stay on the road, because it doesn't come quick. But if you're tenacious and you have the ability to do it, ultimately you'll get your opportunity. You have to keep knocking on the door until you bash the door open. I tell people this. I told myself this when I talk to myself. As long as I don't answer, I hear it's okay. You can talk to yourself. I tell myself and other people, this business, and by business, fill in the blank, whether it's music, TV, theater, feature films, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's a business for those who have to do it. And by have to, I mean have to.
Right.
It's like that's what you have to do in life.
Yeah.
Because that's the tenacity. That's the tenacity you have to have. In baseball, if you hit the ball 3 out of 10 times, you'll go to the Hall of Fame. Well, the percentages of success in the entertainment business are a lot less.
Right.
So you're going to hear a lot of no's and negative things. And you have to have the inner drive to deal with that and keep going. So I think the one thing I would tell myself, my early self, Twilight Zone, my early self, is that to be strong, stay the course, and keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on what you want to do, and that this business of show business, there's so many ways to do things. There's so many avenues to express your creativity. When I just look at my own life, I've done everything from producing independent films to producing studio films to producing theater to producing TV shows for network and the internet and directing as well. So there's so many different ways. I even produced a live broadcast of an opera singer, Renee Fleming, into movie theaters. It was called a Cinecast. So there's so many ways. I'm in love with the process.
That's
what I'm in love with.
Yeah. I'm speaking with Danny Gold. Danny, what's your website if people want to find you?
My website, if they want to find me, is I've got 2 right now, goldentertainmentgroup.com. And actually, that's the one I would go with. We'll go with goldentertainmentgroup.com.
And we're going to be posting that on the page that on Intertalk Radio, so people can find links to the movie and to anything Danny Gold and Mod 3 Productions, which is your production company.
Well, actually, that's what I'm transitioning to.
Okay.
Transitioning from Mod 3 Productions. Yeah.
So thanks for correcting me on that. So your production company is?
Gold Entertainment Group.
Entertainment. Got it.
Formerly Mod 3 Productions.
And in our last minute, our last 60 seconds, what do you want to tell everybody about your latest movie? If you're not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast. Why should people see it?
They should. If you want to have a warm smile and an enjoyable evening where you get to enjoy music, comedy, inspirational stories, turn on HBO at 8:00 and watch. If you're not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast, I believe you will see people who are really living life to their fullest after the age of 90. I look at it as a kind of a inspiration to all of us to see, that the best is yet to come in life. It doesn't end when you retire. You don't have to retire, actually.
It certainly does not, and I think this will change the way you think about growing older. I know it did for all of us.
Absolutely.
Danny, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody next week. And go see this movie. It's a really beautiful documentary and one I'm so very proud to be a part of. Danny, thanks for bringing me in the sandbox with you. And thank you for your time. Okay. See y'all next week.
Episode of Making It with Terry Woman.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.